Shalom, DC, with Israelite School Universal Practical Knowledge, started 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York. I'm the Commander General YAHANNA. Since 1969, we've been teaching the truth of the Bible. And the truth is that Blacks, Hispanics, and Natives across the Western Hemisphere are the true Jews according to the Bible.
What?
And that the reason why we don't know that is because our oppressor, our slave master, has been keeping that from us, and they are the devil that the Bible speaks of. Today is a day that the U.S. celebrates a murderer, a rapist, a slave master, a thief, a pirate.
Right.
We are today. America is celebrating Christopher Columbus or Cristobal Colon.
Right.
And since we were kids, we've learned that he was a hero who sailed across the seas to discover a land and to bring the new world out of the dark ages and into civility.
Right.
Because without the white man, of course, we can't do anything.
Right.
But long before the white man came here, we had structures, huge structures, pyramids. We had doctors, healers. We had surgeons here way before the Europeans.
Right.
We were so rich that we had gold and jewels encrusted in our teeth, hanging from our, ornaments hanging from our noses and our ears and our wrists. And the reason why they came over here was to look for those riches. But what they thought they were doing was they were looking for a shorter route from Europe to Asia, and they thought that they were going to get rich from there, because the reason why they wanted to look for a shorter route, because at that time the land route from Europe going over to Asia was blocked off by the Muslim conquest of Constantinople. They had big beef with the Muslims, right? And around that time was the Crusades, the Christians versus the Catholic Church versus the Muslims of the world. They didn't want any peace. They didn't want anything to do with the Muslims, right? As at that time, the only route to their riches stood in their way were the Muslims. So they had to think of a way to get around that sea, that land portion.
Right.
So Christopher Columbus, the murderer that we know, and thief and liar that we know, is not what we knew him to be growing up. What they put into our heads how he really was.
Right.
Christopher Columbus is he's an Italian. From a young age, he started out as a helper. He was the first of five kids. He helped his father in the tavern. His father owned a tavern in somewhere in Italy. It was a sea port. It was a port area. What the boy didn't like. He didn't like that. He was a dreamer. He always looked out at the sea because it was just right there.
Right.
It was the town that he was from was a seafaring town.
Right.
Everybody there, came from all different places. So he heard tons of stories, especially being in the tavern business.
Right.
He heard people coming in and out, getting lifted up and telling their stories of what's out there in the world, how they traveled, what lands they saw, the different things that they experienced,
right.
and as sailors or whatnot.
Right.
So he longed for that. At 14, he decided to leave his father's employ and go strike out and be a sailor. So he went out and he became a sailor. He started up from the bottom up, right. Learned the ways of seafaring, and he actually got pretty good at it. He was very learned in the ways and navigation, nautical navigation. He was really skilled in that.
Right.
So one day he was on a ship with his Italian comrades and whatnot, and they got they were attacked by pirates off the coast of Portugal. The ship sank. They ravaged the ship. The ship sank. He was just a kid, and the legend has it he was the way he survived. He had an oar or a piece of wood that he held on to, and he swam from wherever he was to the coast of Portugal. And they said it was about 6 miles. Whether he did that or not, that's whatever. But he survived that attack.
Right.
So once he got to shore,
so, if I may, is this is a legend told, or this actually occurred?
So they know that his ship sank.
Right.
They don't really know how far out he was. But he was out a distance, and the way he got back was he used one of the because they totally wrecked the ship. The pirates wrecked the ship.
Right.
So he got a piece of wood. They say it was an oar, and he swam to Portugal. That part was real. How far he swam from where the ship was wrecked to Portugal is up for debate.
Right. Okay.
But he swam to safety. Once he got to Portugal, he linked back up with some more sailors and whatnot. And we all even now, if you just look at how the way sailors are, their reputation, they're not one of high esteem.
Right.
They don't really strike you as the high and mighty. Even back then, to be a sailor, you're really going into danger. When you're going into danger, it's not really the sailing part. Even though sailing in itself can be very dangerous. Rough winds. You really can't predict the weather. Some people were good at it, and they made a lot of money doing that. But you go into lands where you're actually bargaining with different peoples of different lands, different cultures, and whatnot. And just in that in itself, that can be very dangerous. And the type of men that were in this profession aren't the most upstanding, upright men.
Right.
So he, from a young age, even when he was, in his father's tavern, even a tavern isn't, a high profession, a profession of high, esteem. Just that brings, shady characters around. So he grew up in his first half of his life as a tavern maid. Then from that point on, once he was 14 and he went out to be a sailor, he grew up around some more, ill-reputable men, men of low morals and standards. And he, even though he believed he was, sent by God to do holy work, and that's in his writings, he was irreputable. He was a disgusting, evil bastard, and I can't believe how history, like America, they know his history, they know what he's done, but yet we celebrate a man of this caliber. And we're about to go into some of the stuff that he did. But he went to Portugal, and once he went to Portugal at that time, between Spain and Portugal, they were 1 and 2, whether counting the year that you was in. They were number 1 and 2 in as far as sailing, sailing the world. So he learned a lot from Portugal when he was in Portugal. He got married to a young woman that her father was a noble. So he had it. That was his end to the king. So even though he was a sailor, he was learning a lot about nautical navigation. He got really skilled in it. He came up the ranks, and he was the go-to man at that time as far as traveling, seafaring way. He studied nautical ways. He studied it. He found something in one of these letters, in one of these Portugal noblemen's letters, because like I said, his father-in-law was a nobleman. He found a letter that said that there was because at that time they believed the world was, they knew that the world was round. They believed that to get to China through the Pacific, through the Atlantic Ocean, they didn't believe that there was another landmass there. They could just travel over there and just come around. The reason why they hadn't done it in mass at that time was because every time someone would go out for a certain distance, certain mile, certain days, the waters would be really rough. They wouldn't. The navigation was really tough to navigate. So they and the ships back then, all were made of wood. So they couldn't go as far as fast as they wanted to, as they could go. Right. So they just cut that whole idea out as far as going out that way. They knew if they kept going in one direction, they would get to the other side of the earth, but their vessels weren't ready, nor did they know how long it would take for them to actually get over there. So that went out the window. So when he was once he was married, he found this letter. Like I said, he had an end through his father-in-law. His father-in-law was a nobleman in Portugal. He actually went to the king. He got an audience with the king of Portugal, and he told him, he was like, hey, we all want to get, have fame and fortune. One of the ways we can do it is actually go to China through the Atlantic Ocean. Right. It took him a long time to try and convince the king of Portugal to do this. The king of Portugal was like, nah, I ain't doing it. He sent him on his way. After he actually realized, the king was like, all right, well, he ain't never going to do it. The king actually he told him, he basically betrayed him. He double crossed him. He said, no, we ain't going to do it. And then once he went on his way, he commissioned a voyage to actually try and do it. As soon as they set out, just like I said earlier, the waters was rough. No one really knew the navigation to go out there. They got caught in a storm and they turned back. The expedition, the voyage turned back. So they didn't really go all the way over there. But in his travel, him trying to get a commission, a voyage to go over there, he went to the king of England, and he also went to the king of France, and they both rejected him. This was years of him trying to get a voyage to go over there. He finally went out to Spain, and once he got to Spain, it actually took him a year. So this is a long time coming. It took him a whole year, to actually get in front of the king and queen to propose his deal to get out there. The king was like, nah, I ain't really with it. I think you're out of your mind and whatnot. But he sweet talked the queen, Queen Isabella. So he sweet talked the queen, and it was basically the king listening to his woman to get this thing going. And it took him 7 years to actually get it going. And one of the reasons why it took him 7 years from when he actually got to Spain was because Spain at that time, we all know the history of the Moors. The Moors had invaded Spain, hundreds of years before. They were at war with the Moors to expel them from Spain. So they weren't trying to hear anything about, trying to go to China, a new route over there. We don't know if it pans out or not. We need this money. We need the men. We need all our resources to expel the Moors from the country. Took them 7 years to do that. Once they actually expelled the Moors from the country, that's when Queen Isabella allowed Christopher Columbus to go. And if you could, we're gonna read that first article. Actually,
which one?
The article that says, "Here are the indigenous people Christopher Columbus and his men could not annihilate." It's a Washington Post.
Okay, that's a little nuts.
All right. And once he actually got his commission, it took him like I said, it took him a while first to get the commission. While he was actually there trying to convince the king of Portugal, England, France, and then Spain, he was not, in his profession. So he was out of his profession trying to convince, the top people of each of these countries that he can travel a way that no one has ever proved to travel. So it's amazing how this dude actually got to where he was. The historians actually describe him as like a salesman. Like he talks a good game, and the way he talked a good game, he talked it through the woman. He didn't go through the man. The king didn't authorize this. He went through a backdoor way and sweet talked the woman.
Right.
And we all know how, if we listen to our woman, how things can end up for us.
Right.
So he actually got a commission. They allowed him to explore this new way of traveling. But before they allowed him to do it, he demanded certain things. And this just goes to show you his true intentions on what he was supposed to be doing once he got over there. What he demanded, and like I said, this dude came from nothing, really nothing. What he demanded was he would be in charge of any lands that he discovered. Once he gets there, he would be called viceroy, which is like the governor, the second in charge, the person under the king. He would have full authority from each land that he discovered.
Right.
And he would also have 10% of everything that comes in to the crown. So any gold, any pearls, any spices, any materials, anything that came to the crown, he would get 10% from whatever he so-called discovered. So this was his payment to finding the so-called New World, even though there was people that were already there. Get me what you got.
Come. From the Washington Post, here are the indigenous people Christopher Columbus and his men could not annihilate. The Lucanian did not know it was October 12th of 1492. They did not know that their island and what would become the Bahamas had been spotted by Spanish explorers led by a
Genesese
man named Christopher Columbus. And they did not know that in less than 30 years, their island would be empty from the coming genocide. So
right here is telling you what actually happened to our brothers down in the islands. And just to let you know, as it stated, he never stepped foot in what is called now the USA. He never stepped foot in North America. He was only in the Caribbean islands and Central and South America. He briefly explored South America, which they turned his ass around with quickness. But he never stepped foot in what is known today as America.
When you say they turn around, talking about the indigenous, the Gallery Center. No.
Right. The indigenous. No, not the guy. It was Asher and all those folks down there. Yeah.
And what's it called? So he never stepped foot in North America. He was on the Caribbean.
Yeah, right here. So he landed in what we know as the Bahamas.
Okay.
And it'll go in and tell you once he did what he did, that landmass was empty for about 100 years after he came in and invaded the Bahamas.
That land, he said, once he invaded it, it was. You said what about 100 years?
It was vacant. It was empty. No human life was there for about 100 years.
Okay.
For about 100 years, he either killed them off or he put them into slavery or the people fled.
Right.
They weren't. There was no people there for about 100 years. Once he arrived. After he came.
Right.
And met the people and screwed them over from disease, slavery, murder, straight up murder. Once they left that island, they tried to drain it dry. Then that island, that landmass was empty for about 100 years until they came back.
If I may, I don't mean to skip ahead, but if you know, where does the whole Jamestown come into play?
Jamestown, that's the British colonies. So
that wasn't with Christopher Columbus, right?
No, he's in Italian, but he got commissioned through the Spanish, the Spanish crown.
Gotcha. Okay.
So he was one of the first Europeans. Of course, about 400 or 500 years before that, the Vikings came over through Canada. But even that encounter, they didn't know where they were. They didn't know what they were doing. They stayed a short time and left, which these guys should have did, but that was not the will of the Most High.
Right.
So no sweat. Keep on reading, please.
Come. As Columbus and his men approached, the Lucanians greeted them warmly, offering food and water, and we understood that they had asked us if we had come from heaven. So
even right here, our brothers and sisters, greeted them warmly. They allowed them to come in. They didn't ask for any green cards. They didn't ask how long they were going to stay. Even right now, I don't know if anybody knows this. Even right now, the Bahamas has a policy. If you fly in, you must have a return flight out. You cannot clear customs if you cannot produce a way back. And it doesn't even have to be a way back. It just has to be, you ain't got to go home, but you got to get the hell up out of here. Right. You have to have a way out of their island. They learned from this encounter. So as of right now, if you come into the Bahamas and you just have a one-way ticket, whether it's you go in on boat or you fly in, they will not let you clear customs unless you purchase a ticket back out.
So, like, I don't mean to pause it again, but when it says the Lucanians, was that like an Asher tribe, like one of the civilizations that they had called themselves, or what?
Yeah, it's I believe
Israel. Let me ask that.
Yeah,
okay.
there is Israel.
Okay,
it's Israel. I want to say it's one of the tribes of Benjamin that was down there. In this particular instance,
the water.
No sweat. All right, so when he got there, it's showing that these guys are friendly. They didn't ask for any green cards. They didn't ask when they were leaving. They came there and they were gracious hosts, like Israel is. They were gracious hosts, like, hey, come on in. This is paradise. Welcome. We got food, we got jewels, we got everything we need to make you comfortable and happy. Right. And that's exactly how the way they carried it. They were so I would say enamored at them coming there that the whole crew, it was only it was 3 ships, 3 very small ships that first commission that went out there. It was 3 small ships with 90 men across all 3 ships. It was so small that these 3 ships it was the Santa Maria, the Pinta, and the Nina. Right. All 3 ships, they had to actually take shifts to sleep because that's how small these ships were. Once they got there, they were promised, gold. They were promised gold and riches. That was the only reason why these men actually went out there. And each day it was said of Christopher Columbus that each day that there were, days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months. The crew was getting antsy. They didn't believe that there was actually land out there. And here's another thing that I've come across of how much of a devil this dude was. The crown, king and queen, announced that the first man that spotted land that was going on this voyage was promised a reward. They once they came upon land, they saw some, wood that was drifting out. A day or two later, in the middle of the night, they saw one of the lookouts saw land. He spotted land, woke everybody up. Christopher Columbus then later claimed that he spotted land first, and he claimed the reward, even though he was already promised a 10% of all the riches that was supposed to be coming over there. But he took this poor man's claim. He didn't find it, but he took his reward. He took his claim and he took his reward. And this is actual history. They actually says that he was asleep in his chambers. Dude was up there. He spotted it, and this dude just came down like a thief and just took his claim. So when they actually got there, they and on top of that, Salakia, he was the only person on all three of them ships that knew where they were going and how to get back. They were gone for so long, they were getting frustrated with this dude. They wanted to.
Salakia, how long wasn't that trip like a couple of years or something?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't a couple of years. It was a few months. I'm not exactly sure how long it was, but it was a few months.
Right.
It was a few months that it took for them to get there. They had been at sea for so long, they didn't know how to, navigate their way back. So he was, like I said, such a good salesman, a car salesman. He would promise them, every day that, hey, we're gonna make land. We're gonna make land. The only reason why they didn't throw him overboard or kill him was because they didn't know how to get back. So even then, right there, they had some rebellions on those ships. But once they actually got there, they seen all these people there that treated them well, fed them. They were, we were decked out in gold, had nose rings, gold earrings, whatnot, chains on our necks and whatnot. The things that once Israel saw that these devils, when they came over, they were fascinated at their little trinkets, right? So these devils wanting the gold, they saw what we had around our necks, around our rings and whatnot. They was like, we'll trade you this bell, this little bell for that, for that gold ring. They was like, okay, cool, because they didn't care. For us, it wasn't a precious thing that we hoarded. If we liked you, hey, we take the shirt off our backs for you. We should have never trusted them.
Right.
So if you could, can you please continue on?
Then he added, quote unquote, with 50 men, they can all be subjected and made to do what is required of them.
So after all this, they have a long journey. Once they get there, they actually something like this comes to your mind, like what kind of a beast, what kind of an animal, after you almost get thrown overboard from your own men, and then once you get to where you're going, you're treated almost like a god. They're feeding you, they're giving you things, they're trading with you, they're giving you their best stuff, and all you can think about is how you can subjugate them.
Right.
This is what you get. If we're gonna read on, and it shows that he's saying, and this was in his diary, that he said we can leave 50 men and we can just basically conquer them and put them under subjugation. He's talking about slavery. That's what he's talking about.
Right.
So at this time, the population of where he is and where he's about to go was about 6 million people. I want to say it was about 6 million people. And we all know what happened once he left. He left with about the population being about 500. From 6 million to 500. That's his rule of 50 men can leave him in subjugation. This is crazy. This is crazy. You can't keep reading.
Go. Some of them he noticed were wearing gold nose rings. Columbus and his crew stayed just long enough to kidnap a few inhabitants.
Right there, just stayed long enough after he's been treated, like royalty. He came in and just took some people. Keep going.
Before sailing away to explore other islands filled with indigenous people.
So he came and took them, and basically subjugated them.
Right.
Bring me down to in Hispaniola.
In Hispaniola, what is now Haiti and the Dominican Republic, Columbus encountered the Lucanian cousins, the Taino. The Lucanian were a branch of the much larger Taino, who were part of the Arawak language group. Historians disagree on how many Taino lived on Hispaniola at the time, with estimates ranging from 60,000 to 8 million. All
right, drop me down to the next one.
Keep going.
Drop me down to the next paragraph. Sure.
There, Columbus built a fort where he left a few dozen of his crew, killed 2 people, took most hostages, and sailed back to Spain.
All right, so right here, after he explored some more islands, and it is a reason why they're saying how many people were actually that they believed were actually there. He left 37 people back. That was to basically hold ground, right? So he left them with some instructions on find the gold, find as much riches and spices as you can, even though they're still thinking that this is Asia, even though it's not, or this is what they want everybody to believe. They're still thinking that this is Asia. He left his group of people there. And when he went back to Spain, like I said, it was about 37 people. When he went back to Spain, he came home to a hero's welcome. Everybody welcomed him in as a hero. He had parades. He was welcomed into the court, and he was given lands and titles from that point on. Later, we're going to read later on that read that next paragraph.
Then Columbus built Salaki. Yeah. The next one, yeah. After significantly overseeing the prospects for gold to the king and queen of Spain.
So he's going back and telling them like, hey man, this is we just tripping over gold. Everywhere we look, we find gold. Gold is here, gold is there. And they don't even want it. So he's overselling the idea that gold is in Hispaniola. What Hispaniola today is the Dominican Republic and Haiti. So he's in the land. He went from the Bahamas, sailed over to the island of Hispaniola, and he's saying that there's gold everywhere. You can strike gold anywhere you go.
Salaki, you said Hispaniola. Hispaniola today is what?
Today is Dominican Republic and Haiti. That island. Okay. That's where he went after he landed in the Bahamas, took the people, and he went over to Hispaniola.
Right, gotcha.
And he went back to Spain. He went back to Spain, and he's telling the king and queen like, hey, this is the deal. Once they buy into his foolishness, this is what happens.
Columbus returned to Hispaniola with 17 ships and 12,000 men. That's like 1,200 men. 17
ships and 1,200 to 1,500 men. So he came back with a huge force. Huge force. Before it was 90 men and 3 small ships. Now he has a damn near a fleet. He has a fleet, and these people that are coming over there are nothing but explorers, and I wouldn't even say explorers. All of them are pillagers. All of them, they heard the stories of what he was selling, and they thought they can go out and strike it rich. By any means necessary. And if anybody knows, this is right here, this is the equivalent to the Wild Wild West. There was no rule of law. What rule of law they had was them. Whatever came out of their mouth, that was their rule of law. So they're coming over here with the intention of rape, robbery, murder, and all deviousness. Once they came over here, they actually brought some stuff along with them, including some diseases and pork. You had a question?
Well, the minute he came over there with in the beginning, what we said, 90?
Yeah, the first voyage was 3 ships
And
with 90 people.
And so the rest of that 1,200 men was other explorers that shipped over there? Like, where did the other 1,200 men come from?
It was just folks that heard the stories that he was selling, and it was like, well, I want to go over there and make it rich as well.
Oh, so they traveled with Columbus back over to Spain on them 17 ships.
No, that was when he went. So earlier I said he left some men back in Hispaniola. Right. Then he went to Spain and talked to the king and queen. Okay, gotcha. From there, he was selling everything, like saying, hey, we got a whole bunch of gold. Mm-hmm. The land is full of riches, right? That was when he was in Spain. Then they commissioned 17 more ships and 1,200 men from Spain. 1,200 people, I would say, man.
Got you.
1,200 people from Spain to go back to Hispaniola.
Okay, I got
you. Yeah, keep going. So 1,200 men.
Right. The men he had left at the fort the year before had all been killed.
So they had all been killed. Remember, I said it was about 37 men that he had left back to, and they had some specific orders, and those orders were to find gold, find riches, find silk, find. Because they believe they were in Asia. Find silk, find spices, and do all this stuff. These men that were out there were, again, a bunch of, quote unquote cowboys. They had no rule of law. They believed that they were the law, and their interactions, of course, as anybody who's had any interaction with Esau knows how they are. They are very demanding. Greedy, and once their hospitality was running out, demanding something that, you in my house, you don't come up here and ask me, or not telling me that you're going to do something or you want something. The natives was like, man, you need to get out. They didn't feel that. They felt that since they're civilized and they had God on their side, they can just talk to anybody any way they want to. They can do anything they want to do. And they felt that way. One of the reasons they felt that way was because they had iron. Right. The natives didn't have iron. They didn't have armor like the Spaniards did. So they believed that. And like I said earlier, it showed that that Columbus said he can leave 50 men and subjugate them. That went out the window. Right. Killed everybody. Natives was like, nah, we ain't having that. So they killed everybody. Once these 17 ships got there and they seen that, they went ballistic. Even though they had taken people into slavery, and when he first went back, he had slaves with him. He had slaves with him that first journey back. So they seen this, and we're gonna read what happened.
After they, quote unquote, after they had roamed the island in gangs looking for gold, taking women and children as slaves for sex and labor.
Deviants from jump. They had no one to tell them no, this is wrong. They just went and did as they pleased, and that this is why they had been killed. Keep going.
Columbus and his crew searched for gold to no avail. They filled their ships with something else they could sell, people. Of the 500 taínos they took, selected because they were the strongest and healthiest specimens, 200 died on the voyage to Spain. Many more died once they had been sold into slavery.
So right here, if you could, give me Deuteronomy 28:68. So he's saying that, even though he oversold the idea of gold being there and all these other riches, there was none. And if you read another account, it'll show that once they put them into slavery, because once they got there, they immediately put them in subjugation. They put them into slavery. They had quotas that they had to meet. They had to have so much pounds of gold dust every 3 months. And if they didn't meet that quota, their hands were cut off. Anybody who did not meet that quota, their hands were cut off, and those who didn't bleed out and die from their hands being cut off, we'll read that they actually, a lot of them committed suicide, and there was a lot of death. You got Deuteronomy 26:8?
Come on. The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
Into Egypt again with ships. A lot of people know how the so-called African Americans have been brought over to the Western Hemisphere. We've been brought over in ships, but we're not the only ones, nor were we the first ones to fulfill this prophecy. Even though we're all Israel, there was another tribe of our people that it happened to some 100 years before the so-called African Americans have been brought over, and that was the Arawak Indians, and because they couldn't find gold, they took the second best thing, which was in their eyes, which was slaves. They brought 500 men aboard these ships, and these men lived in the Caribbean. If anybody's ever been, even in the South, if anybody's ever been to the Caribbean, they know how warm it is. You can go out, with shorts and flip flops. Island life is that of leisure. Yeah, it's really hot. It's really humid there. Once they got on these ships and went to Europe, man, these men. One of the reasons why they died was because they had no way of they didn't come in contact with cold weather. So once they were on the way over there, a lot of them got sick. A lot of them died. Two of them died. And once they actually got to the land where they're supposed to be slaves, they died there. Some more died there. Keep going.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee.
And if you read, if you understand, Egypt is synonymous with bondage. It means bondage.
Right.
The land where we were, where Pharaoh put us into slavery, was called Mizraim. He says, the scripture says, they will bring us back into bondage again, and this time he'll do it with ships. Keep going.
By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again.
We ain't gonna see our homeland again. These men that sailed over with the murderer Christopher Columbus, they didn't get to see their homeland again.
And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. So
there, once they got there, they were already slaves before they got to their destinations. But once they were there, they were sold into slavery again. Go back to the article, and I want you to scroll down. It's going to show a picture where it has us burning. It has the Tainos hanging from a tree, burning. This is how they treat us. As a matter of fact, let me just show this picture.
You said go back to it.
Go back to the article that you was just reading from. Mm-hmm. And there's going to be a picture where it's disgusting. It has about 20 people, Tainos, hanging from a tree, and they have us burnt. They have piles burning up under us. It's like it, sir. Should I show this picture?
What is the picture of? Yeah, you can show that.
Concert.
And it looked like they got it painted as devil.
They got it look like they painted as devil. So this is a picture. Let's see.
I got you. Is it still plugged?
It's plugged. It's wild. That's perfect right there. The water. This is a picture. Yeah. Right there. All right. Yeah. This is the picture of what they would do to the Arawak Indians. The Taino Indians in the island of Hispaniola. The water. This is how they treated us. They hung us, and it wasn't good enough for them to hang us. They had to burn us. They have different accounts of where they actually burned us alive as well. You got that? Where that picture is?
I have the picture.
All right, go
right underneath it.
No, go to the next paragraph, and it's gonna tell you what one of these explorers' firsthand accounts of how they treated the Arawaks.
Bartolome started that.
No, the next one. It says it is worth quoting.
Okay. It is worth quoting him at length. This excerpt is very graphic. Quote unquote. They, the Spanish explorers, forced their way into the native settlements.
All right, so this man was an explorer. He was one of the first men that actually traveled with Columbus to the quote unquote New World. After he did what he did, and this is all this that he's about to say, he participated in this as well. He, as we know today, found Jesus and turned his ways around and joined a monastery, became a monk. And this is his writings. This is what he witnessed firsthand. And this is why Christ has to come back and destroy the so-called the Edomites for what they did to us. A lot of this stuff I didn't even know. I didn't know. But continue, read, Baba Shaw.
They, the Spanish explorers, forced their way into the native settlements, slaughtering everyone they found there, including small children, old men, pregnant women, and every woman who had just given birth.
So the scripture says, matter of fact, can we get that?
They have no regards for the elderly youth.
Yeah. It's like, sir, can you get that for me, Baba Kashaw?
I go. You want me to
get it? Right here, this is prophecy. Even though it's it happened hundreds of years ago, it's happening right now. But it was prophesied thousands of years ago, and this is only happening to one group of people: Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. And if you can't see the curses, the signs that is pointing to you that you are Israel, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. You need, please wake up, because Christ is on his way back, and you don't want to be on the other side. Even though this is happening to you, you still don't want to be on the other side when Christ comes back. You want to be on his side.
What scripture you want to question?
It's the one where it says they will not regard the old or the young.
That's Deuteronomy 28 and 50.
The what?
I got that.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 50. A nation of fierce countenance would show not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young.
Read that part one more time.
A nation of fierce countenance would show not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young.
The what, sir? Now, Barack, can you read that? The article?
They forced their way into the native settlements, slaughtering everyone they found there, including small children, old men, pregnant women, and even women who had just given birth.
Right here, it's telling you who you are. It's telling you who you are. This is a nation that came from afar. It's like, sir, can you read one verse up, 49?
Mm-hmm. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth. As
swift as the eagle flieth. These guys came out of nowhere. And they did this to us. Can you continue, sir?
God. A nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand.
That goes to show you this is who we are. This is Israel. A nation we didn't know who these people were. We didn't understand who they were. However, they did have translators. They did have Hebrew translators. Columbus had Hebrew translators. That's how he was able to trade with them at first and understand them at first, and then their true color showed and they destroyed us. Barack, can you continue reading?
Come. In the article, right?
Yeah, in the article.
They hacked them to pieces, slicing open their bellies with their swords, as though there were so many sheep herded into a pen.
So, what kind of a people? This is a first-hand account of what these guys were doing. He witnessed. Not only did he witness, he was actually doing some of these things. He witnessed this going on all the time when he was there, and he was a part of them. Keep going.
Okay. They even laid wagers on whether wages. They even laid wagers on whether they could slice a man in two at a stroke, or cut an individual's head from his body, or disembowel him with a single blow of their axes.
So, when they came over there, they helped them. They helped them get together. They traded with them. Here's one of the nasty things that they actually gave them their women. Not they gave them a woman. They gave them their woman, and that was totally disgusting. We were lost, just like the so-called African Americans was lost in on the west coast of Africa doing all sorts of craziness. The native population of the Western Hemisphere have been doing the same thing. And one of the practices was when a stranger came in, they actually would give their women up. The scripture says you will not make any whores out of Israel, out of the daughters of Israel. And if you do, death will happen. We are not to be whoremongers. We're not to be pimps. We're not to sell out our sisters. Our sisters are precious. The Most High looks at them so preciously that anything that you do will hinder them. So our sisters are precious. And if any sister that thinks that they have no role or no place in the school, you are sorely mistaken. We cannot be as efficient. We can still do the Lord's work, but we cannot be as efficient as we can be without you sisters. You sisters are vital to the work of the Lord. Keep going.
Go. They grabbed suckling infants by the feet and ripping them from their mother's breasts, dashed them headlong against the rocks.
Read that one more time. Sorry, if you can give me Psalms 137:9, please. Keep going, bro.
They grabbed suckling infants by the feet and ripping them from their mother's breast, dashed them headlong against the rocks.
That sounds familiar. It sounds familiar. I've heard that at least two places. One, they did it here before. What's that devil's name in America who did the trail? Thomas Jefferson. He did that. He authorized that, and he along the Trail of Tears, when the women who had just given birth would slow down because they had just given birth, or the child was crying too much because they're traveling so much. The soldiers, under the orders of their commander, Thomas Jefferson, would take them by the feet and dash them against a rock, or dash their head against a tree, and force the woman to keep on going. They would even make wagers to see how many swings it would take to actually kill that child. But this is what the Lord says. Slack, if you could, sir.
Psalms chapter 137, verse 9. Happy shall he be that taketh and dasheth thy little ones against the stones.
Why is it happy for him to do that? It's because these bastards did it to us.
Right.
These bastards, why would you even think to do something like that? A helpless child, you would take them and dash. That's all right. That's all right. When Christ comes back, this is what's going to happen. Read that one again, Bible Shaw.
Happy shall he be that taketh and dasheth thy little ones against the stones.
And that's some get back. That's some get back. I'm not telling anybody to do that now, because no one should do that right now. But when Christ comes back, it's going to be on. Right. Just pray. Make your election sure. Just make your election sure that you are one of the chosen to be called. I strive hard to make my election sure.
Right.
It's like a Brock. If you could continue reading, Bob Shaw.
Come on, no sweat. Others laughing and joking all the while, threw them over their shoulders, shouting, "Wriggle, you little perisher."
So after this is happening, the mother is crying, weeping at what she had just seen. This is crazy. They're throwing them over their shoulder to do what? They're probably gonna do some other vile, disgusting thing to the mother after they just ripped the baby that was suckling from a mother and dashed it against a stone. And they're laughing at it, like it's some joke. What kind of a person is so disconnected that they can kill a baby and then go and rape their mother? This is who, we choose to love. This is who we choose to march with when we, say Black Lives Matter. When the whole time they're the whole cause of the reason why we're out there marching Black Lives Matter. I'm not saying the men in I.S.U.P.K. I'm talking about all of Israel. They are the reasons why we're screaming Black Lives Matter. Our kids are still being dashed against the stone. It's still happening. It's still happening now. And this is the legacy of Cristobal Colon. This is his legacy. This is his legacy. Read that next chapter, Baba Shah. Paragraph.
When Las Casas wrote this in 1542, there were only 200 Taíno left on Hispaniola.
How many?
200 Taíno left on Hispaniola.
Keep going.
Across the Caribbean, he claimed the Spanish were responsible for the deaths of 12 to 15 million indigenous people.
So all across the lands that they visited, they were responsible for 12 to 15 million indigenous people. That's a lot of killing. That's a lot of death. For how many people that came over here?
15 to that came with them.
That 90. Came with it.
90.
It was the first one was 90, and then the second group was 1,200.
Yes.
So 1,200. Let's just call it 1,290 people killed 12 to 15 million people, and they call us murderers. They call us, killers. They're scared of us. They're afraid for their lives.
Right.
When 1,290 people kill 15 to 12 to 15 million people, you got something?
No, I had a question. You had said it earlier, but I missed it. Las Casas, he wrote this. He witnessed this, or this is research that this person did and then.
No, he witnessed it. He was one of that 1,290 people that came over there.
Oh, to do this to the indigenous people.
Right. He was there. He did it. He witnessed it. And then, he, according to him, he couldn't take it no more, so he stopped doing it. And this is what he wrote.
Okay, gotcha.
So
he's a devil.
He's a devil.
Gotcha.
He's a devil.
Gotcha. What?
So that little bit of people killed all those people. How did they do that? Some of it was with the sword. Some of it was through slavery, and a lot of it was through disease. These devils bring disease like no other, like rats, like the bubonic plague. That the bubonic plague happened for two reasons. One, because they don't know how to wash their butts, and two, they're just dirty. Rats was infested the cities, and if they could just clean after themselves, a plague like that wouldn't happen. So, like, if you could, can you get me Deuteronomy 28 and 59? 28 and 59.
God. The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 59. Then the Lord will make thy plagues wonderful, and the plagues of thy seed, even great plagues, and of long continuance, and sore sicknesses, and of long continuance.
So right here, he's saying the Most High will make the plagues great. Like I said, most of these people, most of the indigenous deaths, 12 to 15 million of them came through the hands of disease. These people brought disease over here. And not only that, these people introduced the Western Hemisphere to syphilis. And lo and behold, Christopher Columbus died of syphilis. He died of the end of his life wasn't as deserving as it should be, because what the account we just read was didn't deserve the easy way he went out, because he did go out, diseased and bedridden, but that it should have been a lot worse. It should have been a lot worse. All the pain and suffering he caused. He was responsible for 12 to 15 million deaths. Because of him, 12 to 15 indigenous people had to go because of this. But the Most High said, what? Read that scripture one more time, Baba Shaw.
Then the Lord will make thy plagues wonderful, and the plagues of thy seed, even great plagues, and of long continuance, and sore sicknesses, and of long continuances.
Go to the next one.
Moreover, he will bring upon thee all the diseases of Egypt.
All the diseases. So these guys never knew anything about smallpox. About smallpox was the biggest one. They didn't know anything about syphilis, but they got it. They were passing these diseases onto them, and even the other devils, the British, when they came over to North America, they passed out. They took a page from what happened in the Isles, the Indies, what they call the Indies. They took a page out of them and gave blankets to the Native Americans and said and caused them shalom. And these blankets were filled with smallpox, killing millions of our brothers and sisters back in over here in North America. So I keep going, bro.
Moreover, he will bring upon thee all the diseases of Egypt, which thou wast afraid of, and they shall cleave unto thee.
These diseases cleaved unto our brothers from the northern tribe, and damn near wiped out the entire population. We just read that once he left there, it's about 200 indigenous people there. 200. What kind of an animal, a mass murderer, decimates a population like that? And like I said before, this is the reason why they that landmass, not Hispaniola, but where the Lucanians were, was vacant for about 100 years, damn near close to a century. It was because of this. So it shows you, man, you just can't trust them. You can't trust them. They came in, we smiled in their face, they smiled in our face, and they stabbed us right in the back. They took us into captivity from jump. As soon as he got there, it said Columbus didn't stay long. He captured, kidnapped some people, and went to some other islands. This is the type of man he is. Just like it. Drop that and get me the next article, if you could. The top 5 atrocities.
Top 5 atrocities. I got it.
All right. Go down. Read that caption above his picture, Baba Shaw.
Read the caption above his picture.
Yeah.
We could subjugate them all.
That was his whole thing. Once he's seen how I would say docile the northern tribe was, they didn't have any iron. They didn't have any body armor. What they had some coarse materials like shells for their weapons. They didn't really need weapons. Why? Because they're peaceful people. We were peaceful. Everybody ate. Once they got there, everybody ate. We didn't have to bicker amongst one another, doing this and doing that. We didn't need weapons. And the scripture says once the kingdom of heaven actually comes here, for the last and final time, and it lasts forever, we don't need any weapons for warfare. We're going to put away them weapons because there's going to be no need for war anymore. These people, Israel at that time, they needed weapons, as we can see hindsight, but they didn't have any weapons. They didn't bicker amongst each other. This is the the anatomy, the spirit of Esau. He's great with the sword. That he's blessed with the sword.
Right.
Keep going.
In his journal, Columbus didn't mince words about his intentions after meeting the Arawak natives in the Bahamas in 1492. He described the encounter thusly, quote unquote, "They brought us parrots and balls of cotton and spears and many other things. They willingly traded everything they owned. They were well built with good bodies and handsome features."
What? Say it again.
They were well built with good bodies and handsome features.
So we all know the exactly. You took the words right out of my mouth. We all know what type of reputation sailors have. They've always had this reputation. That sounds pause. Cause it sounds pause. Who thinks like that? Who thinks like that? These bastards, man. Boy, I tell you. Keep going.
All right, come. They were well built with good bodies and handsome features. They do not bear arms and do not know them. For I showed them a sword. They took it by the edge and cut themselves out of ignorance.
All right, so you see that? So even though we didn't have the weapons, we didn't know what weapons were like that. We didn't know their weapons. So when they presented their swords, we took it, like it was a stick and whatnot. We cut our hands because we didn't need weapons of warfare to that magnitude. Again, we were peaceful people. Drop me down to mass genocide, Bobby Shaw. It should be the last one.
Got you. Mass genocide. Facing extermination, the Arawaks organized and attempted to fight back against the Spaniards.
We ain't no punks now. Even though we're peaceful, we ain't no punks. We gonna fight back. Keep going.
Right. But they were little match against the armor, muskets, swords, and horses of the Europeans. The Spaniards hung and burned Indians that they took captive.
See, again, like I said, if people don't look at the signs of what they did to us as a whole, they did the same thing to the so-called Black Americans, African Americans in America and the Caribbean. They hung us from trees. They still hanging us.
Right.
A few months ago, it was a rash of hangings that they call suicides. What Black man will commit suicide by hanging himself? I don't understand that.
Right.
I don't understand that. It is true. Black men have been in captivity, has been destroyed so much that we do think of suicide. We do attempt suicide, but I don't know of anybody Black. I don't know any Black, Hispanic, or Native American who actually will try and hang themselves. There's other ways that they attempt to do it. Hanging is not one of them. So it shows you, they hung us. They hung the so-called African Americans. They hung the indigenous population. They burned them. They burned us. We the same people. They put them in captivity. They put us in captivity. It's the same thing. The scripture says it will overtake you if you do not follow the commandments. All of these curses will overtake you.
Right.
And he's talking to all of Israel. He's not saying the northern kingdom. It will happen. It will not say in the southern kingdom, this will happen to you. He said it will happen to all of us. And lo and behold, it happened to all of us.
Right.
Keep going.
Come. By this point, the Arawaks began committing mass suicides.
Mass suicide, how they do it?
They fed cassava poison to their infants to save them from the Spanish.
All right, so what they did was there's a root, a food that they call cassava, which some of us here know as yucca. Is actually very poisonous. It's very poisonous. Yeah.
Don't eat that.
No, I'm not saying don't eat that.
It's
good. I eat as much.
I'm gonna say, hold on, I'm ready to try to kill me.
No, it's a certain way you have to prepare it, and if you don't prepare it that certain way, it is poisonous to you. it can lead to death. And these people, they knew it can lead to death, so they fed it to their infants and they ate it as well because they refused, just like what's that movie Black Panther? Who was like, bury me in the ocean because my ancestors knew that it's better to die than to be in captivity. Yeah. So these people were saying, yo, we know what they're doing to us. We see it all the time. We can't fight back because we're fighting back, but it's vain because these devils are blessed with the sword. They have armor, they have shield, they have superior weaponry. We didn't study war like they did. So when we go up to them, go up against them, we perish. So this, for time's sake, what they're saying is they fed their kids and they ate in themselves cassava the way it wasn't meant to be consumed. So even to this day, if you grow, cassava and just eat it a certain way, you're going to get sick. And I have a list of things. One of the lists is you have goiters. It grows goiters, and goiter is an inflammation in your neck where it'll cause you to cough, sore throat, or it'll block your airway. You can't breathe. You can't swallow. It'll cause temporary blindness. It'll cause paralysis in your legs, and eventually it'll cause death. So this is the hard route that these people went to ensure that the Spanish don't do what they did to them. Burn them alive, rape them, sell them into slavery. These devils are infamous for doing, again, some gay stuff and just some horrendous things that you just can't come across your mind. How do you even think of doing something like that?
Right.
So like
if I may be question, what you said was so heavy in this. You said we tried to fight back, but it was vain. And that's one thing we got to understand now today. Like, they're not beating us because they're better than us. And they're beating us. The reason why they're beating us, is right here in this precept. It's Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 30. How should one chase 1,000 and two put 10,000 to flight, except their rock had sold them and the Lord had shut them up? This precept right here is saying, the reason why the white man, who was such a small thing in the grand scheme of things, of people who are weak, the only reason why they were able to do what they were able to do to our people is not because of their own might. It's because the Lord gave us up. That's why he said we fought in vain because the Lord gave us up. So that's something that we have to understand today, so that we always keep in my mind. There's nothing that we can do to defeat the white man without the Lord.
And that's one of the that's a heavy point, and that's a reason why the I.S.U.P.K and the Commander General YAHANNA says, do not take up arms to try and defeat the white man right now. It's not for us to do it. It's for the Most High to send Christ back to do it for us. There's nothing that we can do to defeat the white man. The only thing that we can do is to turn back to the ways of the Most High. That's the only thing that we can physically do to defeat the white man, to defeat Esau. The only way we can do that is we band together brotherhood and serve the Most High the way he told us to do. And if we don't do that, our babies will be dashed against the stone. Right. Our women will be taken into captivity and we can't do anything. Our women will be raped in front of us and we can't do anything. Right. This is part of the curses. And the reason why it's part of the curses is because we're disobedient. We're a stiff-necked nation. Right. Most High told us this will happen if you don't listen to me, and we didn't listen to him. Right. So you're gonna have to tax our ass, lock it. If you could, Baba Char, read one more. The cruelty. It should be the one right above that, and go down to the last sentence. It says Las Casas. Yeah,
Las Casas adds, quote unquote, two of these so-called Christians met two Indian boys one day, each carrying a parrot. They took the parrots for fun beheaded the boys. So
that same dude that we read about earlier, who described all the atrocities that was going on, he just said that he's seeing these so-called Christians, and I wouldn't even say so-called because that is the spirit of Christianity in America and throughout the world right now. Right. These bastards just for fun, seeing these two native indigenous people, these indigenous boys walking, enjoying themselves, enjoying their company with parrots. It took the parrots and cut the dudes' heads off.
Right.
Like who does that?
Right.
Who would do that? Who would do that? So, I mean, I can go on and on with this. I'm just for time's sake, I'm going to tell you that after his second voyage back, once he brought that 17 ships to Hispaniola and he went back for a third time, the word got back to them that it wasn't as rich as he had purported. When he went back the third time, because he went a total of 4 times. When he went back to Hispaniola the third time, he went with less ships, less men, and at that time, they had to bribe convicts. They had to pardon convicts and say, if you want to get out of jail, we'll pardon you if you go with Columbus over here. So he brought some more murderers and rapists and thieves with him. And when he did that, word got back. You know, it was a lot of recklessness that went on. There was open rebellion against Columbus. His men were doing something that he didn't want to happen. They wouldn't listen to him, so the crown sent an officer over there. And once he got there, and the crown endowed him with certain duties and certain duties and power. Once he got there, as soon as he got there, he seen 5 Italian men hanging for their rebellion against not Italian, my bad, 5 Spaniards hanging from their rebellion from Columbus. And that enraged him because he was like, how dare an Italian hang a Spaniard? Like, who the hell are you? He didn't have anything to do with the indigenous people, what they were doing to the indigenous people. He was worried about what this Italian man was doing to Spaniards. So he had him and his brother arrested and sent back to Spain. Once he was sent back to Spain, he stripped him of his land, stripped him of his title, stripped him of everything. He went back to Spain in chains. This is what happened. He went back to Spain in chains. On his voyage, you know, they was like, well, you don't have to. He tried to martyr himself. It was like, you don't have to, you know, be in chains because, you know, we're on the ship. You ain't going nowhere. So he was like, nah, I'm gonna do this because, you know, y'all want to put me in chains. I'm gonna stay in chains. Screw you. So he stayed in chains. Once he got there, he sweet talked the queen once again. The queen pardoned him. The queen talked the king to pardon him. He pardoned him and whatnot, and he lived in basically, you know, out of sight, out of mind. And he went back a 4th time. This time he went back with broke down ships like a hoopty with you know, SpongeBob SquarePants type of ship. No one wanted to go with him. It took him 2 years to try and get a crew to go with him. These ships were rotting. This is Columbus. So
this is after all of it.
This is after all this happened. He got arrested. You know, he put in chains and all that. The queen pardoned him once he got back to Spain. He wanted to go back again to prove, you know, one last shot. So they gave him one last shot. It took him 2 years to actually get a crew to go there. And it was 3 ships, and these ships were breaking down. You know, it was rotten and whatnot. Once they actually got there, they got to Hispaniola, and
This is before.
what's that?
This is before.
Before what?
Before they got to Hispaniola the first time.
No. This is the 4th and final time that he went. He had 4 voyages.
Mm-hmm.
This is the 4th time he got there.
Okay.
So each time, you know, he
So
went.
this is before all the slaughter and everything.
No, this is after. This is after the slaughter.
So Slug, if I may, earlier, okay, maybe I was mistaken. Earlier you said when he came back, he was considered like a hero or something like that.
So when the first voyage, he got there, he discovered, you know, America. When he came back that first time, that was when he was welcomed home as a hero.
After all the gold and all of after all the slaughter.
No, that slaughter didn't happen at that time because he had just got there. He brought some slaves back. He brought some gold back. He brought some stuff back. and they didn't think he was going to do it in the first place, so they hailed him as a hero. It was a big thing.
And then the second voyage.
And then the second voyage, he was in hot water. There wasn't the amount of gold he had promised. There wasn't the spices. There wasn't all these things he had promised, and there was open rebellion. He knew that. They knew that. So all this stuff had made their way back to the king and queen. Then he went back. Once he went back the third time, he was sent back, arrested. He was in chains. That was when the slaughter happened. That's why they had sent a royal officer over there to see what the hell was going on. You follow me? So after he was arrested, he had gotten pardoned. After he had gotten pardoned from by the queen,
Right.
he was out of sight, out of mind. He tried to come back in. He came back in. They gave him a final voyage, and this is where I am right now. It took him 2 years to actually get crew. Once he got over to Hispaniola, the man who arrested him didn't let him port, but he knew that it was a hurricane that was supposed to come, so they didn't let him port and come on land. The rebellion that Columbus couldn't control was still going on while that guy was over there. So the crown wanted him to come back. So they were sending that guy who had arrested Columbus. They wanted him to come back. He told that guy, don't sail right now because there's a hurricane coming, right? So I remember there was a video that Captain Shock put out, and it was a tire that was kind of rolling, and the guy was trying to get out the way, and it still hit him. It like rolled into him, and it was like, if the Most High wants you, He gonna get you.
Right.
So after all this stuff was happening while Columbus was gone, and he was supposed to be in control, a lot of stuff was still happening. When he left, it was like 3 ships. All 3 ships sank. Everybody was killed. Most High did that. So everybody, like I said, everybody was killed. He survived because he didn't go in. He didn't go out. When he actually got to one of the islands, and he didn't, like I said, he didn't go into Hispaniola. He wound up in, I want to say, Jamaica. He wound up in Jamaica. At that time, everybody knew, who he was. They fed him for about, him and his crew for about 6 months. After that, after they fed him, it was like, you need to go. Your welcome is wearing out. So they were threatening to cut him off. You ain't getting nothing anymore. So he, like I said, he was a nautical, I wouldn't say a genius, but he knew how to travel by sea. One of the things he knew what was going to happen was going to be a lunar eclipse. So he told these people, like, hey, listen, I'm sent from God. God sent me here and whatnot. And
He is in Christopher Columbus.
Christopher Columbus, yeah. He was like, God sent me here. I know what's going to happen. If you don't give me food, He's going to block out the moon. And it was like, yeah, they were like, yeah, whatever. Since he knew how to, travel, he knew the signs of, the stars and whatnot. Traveling wise, he knew it was going to be a lunar eclipse. It happened. They fed him, whatnot, and he continued on. He continued on going around, central, the Caribbean and central South America. Ship got wrecked. Spain wouldn't even come to get him for about a year. So he was shipwrecked for about a year, him and his crew. Left again, not America, but the natives looked out for him and allowed him to survive. Once the Spanish actually came and got him, he went back to Spain, and where he lived in squalor. Essentially, he had at that time he had diseases. He had syphilis. He had gout. He had extreme arthritis. The Most High was dealing with him. Like I said, it wasn't enough. The way he died, and he was, I want to say, he was in his 50s, maybe 60s. But like now, that's pretty young. But back then, he was bedridden. He was going delirious. He was having, hallucinations. He was out even though he was awake. If anybody has ever talked to someone who's not been fully there, but they're awake, He was in that condition until even by his bedside, he had those chains where he was locked away with, when he got sent back the third time. This time, when he actually died, one of his things he wanted to do was be buried with his chains. So that he was buried with his chains. If you were to dig up his body, he has chains on him. But that even as he died, he was a failure. But the world props him up as some kind of hero when he was the cause of 12 to 15 million deaths just from his invasion alone. And then you got the Portuguese doing what they did. You got the Dutch doing what they did. You got the American and the French, the British and the French doing what they did. Because of him, he caused hundreds of millions of deaths. He caused so much death and destruction. He should not be celebrated in what America has him as. He is the bringer of death and destruction. That's all I can say about this man. And with that, my time is up. I'm gonna pass the class to Priest and Officer Kazaka.
All right. Security announcements. We are the I.S.U.P.K out of 1 West, 125th Street out of Harlem, New York, under Commanding General YAHANNA. New rules for brothers and sisters. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to share themselves with the world. After 6 months, if a brother or a sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or a sister. There's another 6 months in which the brother or sister will court each other. After this 6-month period, the brother or sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment. You can find this in Numbers 18 and 21 and Malachi 3, 8 to 10. Means 10th in Hebrew and is pronounced ma'ashara. 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives, we give to the Treasury Department or teacher. Priest fund, free will offering for priests. Not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like to give. The upcoming Holy Convocation is the Feast of the Dedication. That's the Hanukkah. That's the 25th day of the 9th month by the space of 8 days. That's Wednesday, December 9th, 2020. For 8 days, you can find this in 1 Maccabees, chapter 4, verses 52 to 61. Remind Akim and Akwabin to check on social media, such as ISUPK.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and so on for ISUPK events and materials. If a brother wants to be a trooper in the school, he's to start wearing all black, which includes black boots, black shirts, black pants, black headband or scarf. And with that, I say Amadju, which means to stand. Men of Israel, we're going to give one courtesy salute to the teacher. Men of Israel, Amadju Shabbat. Amadju, Barak.
Yahweh Shah Brakatah.
Yahweh Shem Yahshua Brakatah. Yazmatah, dismissed.